Welcome to Saturday versus Sunday. I'm Geoff Dover. With me is John Barban. Let's talk football.
All right, this is going to be a little rant about NIL and the new revenue sharing thing that's separate of NIL, and this stuff about equity and all of these other sports that think they deserve a cut of that money, even though they don't generate any money.
Right.
And the frustration.
Okay, hold on. So let's just a quick summary.
Quick summary.
Give me 2 sentences. What is the revenue sharing, and what's the problem with it, or like what's the projected split right now?
All right. So then I guess legally now there's a precedent where schools can actually pay players,
Right.
which NIL was never pay for play.
Right.
NIL was money coming
Not supposed
from
to be
something other than the school. So collectives are this third party entity that it's not the coach or anybody. It's not the AD, nothing.
Yeah.
It's something else. Right.
Right.
And or those collectives are just pay for play anyways, but they're under the guise of NIL.
Correct.
And then true NIL, name, image, and likeness, was the ruling that players have the right to profit off of their name, image, and likeness.
Yes.
So, but
so they sign their own deals, sign their own thing.
Deals.
It's not through the university.
But almost no kid has that. Like Shadur Sanders did have that. Travis Hunter did have that. They were on national television commercials with national brands, which has. It's not a collective, a group of people just paying them to play for their school, right? And pretending like it has something to do with advertising.
So the revenue sharing is that all the money that's made from university sports now, like, so for like the
some
number
amount of it can be paid out to players now.
What this can or like must be,
I think there's a cap. You actually have to pay out a certain amount.
So I thought the number I saw in the article. So the article we're going to be talking about today is the CBS Sports one that talks about the revenue sharing. It just came out on April 4th. So the number I saw was $20 million. So that means the school, a university now has to pay $20 million to its athletes. And the big question is, how do you do that? Like, do you just spread it up? Does everyone just get like $650, or like do some teams get more money or something?
Right.
And so what's athletic directors are automatically saying is that football is going to get like 80% of it or 90% of it, because that's the thing that generates the most money. And then like men's basketball might be 15%, women's basketball 5%, something like that. So that the main gist of it is like revenue. So you can have a certain amount of money. And now how do you decide who gets it at your university?
Right. And so in the article, it says, in the Big Ten and SEC, approximately 75 to 80% of the revenue share is going to go to football. Now, this is separate of scholarships.
So who decided that? Is that part of the thing? Like, is that the judge said that, the decision, or they're just like,
no, the ADs have to figure it out. But and the coaches, all the coaches of all the sports have their hand out asking for money, right? Even if they don't make the money, they want some of this money.
Correct.
But for the big football schools, all the money comes from football and maybe a small bit from basketball. But the real money made by these programs is the football team.
Yes.
And it's reasonable that 75 to 80% goes to the football team. I think it should be proportionate, and they should just get all of it because it's all coming from them anyways.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm wearing the South Carolina is because in this article, as an example, they point out that the South Carolina women's basketball coach is one of the most successful basketball programs, and she's one of the highest paid coaches.
Yeah, and that was a great story, right? So South Carolina, so in the SEC, the Tennessee women's basketball team was really good for a long time.
Yeah.
Georgia was good for a bit, but a lot of other SEC teams were not good, including South Carolina, like really not good for like a long time. And that was a great example of the perfect hire. She came in, really changed the team and the recruiting also, but a main thing was the culture, and she had a great fan engagement. Like Beyonce had like she called her fans like the Beehive or something, and then she's like, we're going to call ours the G-Hive or something. Like, and then they do, and they sell out at some of those games, and it's an amazing turnaround, and they're an incredible program.
Right. And that's the coach, Dawn Staley. And she said in the article, she admits she understands the bulk of the money comes from football, so the bulk of the money should stay with the football team. But she still, the coaches of all the different teams still want their cut. And in South Carolina's case, 75% goes to football, 15% to men's basketball,
is what they're projected now, right? That's
projected,
what they're, yeah.
5% to women's basketball and 5% to all the other sports put together.
Which is
And
crazy because they have also like a championship level men's baseball team,
right.
right? That's going to get,
but they don't bring in any money. And then this is where it gets frustrating, because the women's basketball team loses on average $5 million a year.
That's crazy.
Well, it brings in a certain amount. It says it generates about 5 million revenue,
yeah.
but between salaries and all the costs of traveling and all of your, just everything that goes into it, it loses on average 5 million. Her salary's 4.
I know.
So what we're saying is the football team brings in all of this money.
Yeah.
And they hand it to the basketball team to lose 5 million a year.
Right.
And so 4 of it goes into her pocket.
I know.
So what all I'm going to say is those are all charity cases off the backs of the football team.
Gotcha.
And then Shane Beamer, the football head coach, put it quite succinctly. He's like, do you know how much pressure I feel to keep the program going, to make enough money to hand it to all of you people?
That was a great point of the article, right? Like that, it's one thing. There's already a lot of pressure on, men's football coaches anyway, because especially in the SEC, and every game's super important. You remember that game where it was, what the hell was the guy? He was at Tennessee. He didn't last very long, but it was sort of a fluke play at the end, and they beat Georgia, and he just like collapsed on the field, because he was so, it was so important. Like that was a really big win for them, and it didn't look like it was going to happen. And it was, and it was like, you could see he's like hanging by a thread, you know what I mean? So it was, so like well,
didn't the former Michigan State coach have a heart attack on the field after calling a fake punt to win the game?
That's right. Yeah.
Against Notre Dame or against Michigan or somebody.
Yep.
Like, wait,
so
what?
D'Antoni,
he's in the hospital. D'Antoni. Yeah.
So anyway, all this being said, there's already a ton of pressure. I can't imagine going all to those booster sessions and things like that, saying like, hey, you guys going to win, like, and dealing with that, plus your own like coworkers, like at your own university. Like,
well, they all just have their hands out.
Yeah.
Saying where's my cut?
Here's my part about the hands out thing. And this is something I couldn't wrap my head around when I was reading this article, especially that part about South Carolina. Okay. So let's say you're a regular businessman like yourself. People might not know this, but John Barban has his own business. So you want to make money, right? And you want to have a successful business, and you're going to do everything you can for that. That could be culture, product, shipping, whatever it is. You do whatever it takes to make money. So let's say your business brings in, $500,000, but it costs $400,000 to do it. And then you could pay yourself then $100,000 because that's what you've made
it's
more,
your profit,
right? Exactly. That's your profit. Now, or you can invest it more in back in the company, or that's the money you take. If it takes $500,000 to make your company, and you earn $400,000, and you bring in 400,000, you means you lost $100,000, right? So you don't have any money now. Like you don't have no money to pay yourself. Not
have any money, you're in debt now.
Right, you're in debt. So it is fascinating that Dawn Staley makes $4 million. They lose $5 million as a team, and feels like they deserve more money and is asking for more money. And even though they're losing it, like, so if they gave them $5 more million, let's say, then you're going to be in debt $5 more million. Like it's going to be, so instead of losing 5, now you would have lost 10. Right.
If you just upped her salary without covering
not even the salary. Like let's say, let's put numbers on it. So they say they brought in $5 million a year, but they lost. They're still at a loss of $5 million. So that means
to operate the women's basketball team, including the coaches' salaries and all of what goes into it, they lose $5 million a year.
Right. So that means
no, that's just her salary, not the other coaches. Not everything else.
Hold on. So that just to be clear, they said that the South Carolina women's basketball team makes $5 million a year, right? Like the team.
Oh,
makes
right. Yes. It generates 5 and loses 5.
But overall
it loses 5.
Yes. So that means it costs $10 million to run the team for a year, and they bring in 5. So that means every year they lose $5 million.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the football team subsidizes.
Hold on. And so now she wants more money to make the team better and to be competitive and things like that. So let's say they gave her $5 more million. Now it would just cost $15 million to run the team. Yeah. You're going to bring in 5. She's just going to lose $10 million.
So you lose 10. Right.
Good point. So so I don't, That's the part that I have trouble. Like, if you had your own business and you're like, I'm working really hard, I deserve more money, but your company was losing money,
Mhm.
you don't, there's no more, like, you can't
But
ask
this
anyone
is
for
what you
more
get
money.
at large organizations where it's unaccountable. And
Right.
it part of it's Title IX, and you just have to spend money on the other programs that don't.
Yeah.
They literally call them non-revenue programs.
Yeah. I know.
So
So,
basically, your football team
but
makes
anyway,
you
isn't that
all the
crazy though?
money.
Like,
Yeah,
don't
it's
you like,
totally
wouldn't you
crazy.
like, it's okay? Because I would have thought you would have related to that as like a business person,
Oh yeah,
that like
that's
the
it. Just
idea of
frustrates
like,
the hell out of me that any
that
of
the
these
idea
teams
that if your
thinks.
company was
Yeah,
losing money and you're like, oh no, but I want more money. And I'm like, I'm sure you do. Like,
but that's how anything. That's how a public institution works.
yeah.
They don't account for it. I mean, look at the government's doing, finding trillions of dollars of waste,
Mm,
and it's all unaccountable because
mhm.
this is an example. It doesn't function on profit and loss. It functions
Right.
on money coming in and this nonsense of equity and allocating it to whoever because of some stupid rule.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, I deserve that. You deserve shit.
Yeah.
You actually, your value to the school's negative $5 million. That's,
Yeah. It's
imagine the
crazy.
shoe. Imagine the shoe was on the other foot. Imagine the football team needed to survive on the revenue generated by the basketball team.
Mm,
There would be zero money. The football team would owe money.
yeah.
So, and it's just this thing of whoever has the money. Now, speaking as a business owner and somebody who I might have a bit more money than some people I interact with, everyone thinks you can just give them money. Like,
Mm,
if you're listening here and you've actually run a business and you're in a higher tax bracket than somebody you've ever been around, or this is something that will happen. If people know you
mhm.
have money, they're going to just think you can hand it to them
Yeah.
because they
Here's
don't
and
get
that
how
was the other.
you got it. They don't understand. They don't understand anything about that. It's not a zero sum game. Just like if Geoff makes twice as much as me, that doesn't mean uh, that he took it from me. Whatever
Right.
he's doing in his life generates that much money, and whatever I'm doing, let's say I generate less, it doesn't mean he owes it to me. But that's
Yeah.
how these institutions act.
Yes.
That's
Yeah.
how the government acts. And again, tax my money and hand it to somebody else who has less, and
Yeah.
tax me more because I have more. So
Right.
that this revenue share nonsense is just functioning like a little mini redistribution government system, and
Right.
these are all public institutions, so that's how they're kind of always still think that way. They have rules in place like Title IX and all
Yeah.
this crap. And I would be utterly furious if I was a football player seeing this happen, thinking, no, it's us. We generate this money. Not
Mhm.
We're not handing it. They never asked us like how much of do we want to hand them any money. They'd be zero. They're going to hand
Yeah.
them zero.
Yeah. No, that's a really good point about working at like an institution. So I work at a university,
Mhm.
and I've been involved in all conversations like with different departments and stuff, and everyone wants more money, right? They're
Mhm.
like, and it's not, they're not being jerks about it. They're just like, you know what? If we had more money, we'd be able to offer this. If we had more money, we'd be able to offer these labs like at night or on the weekend, which is better for the students.
Do
It's
they
a
ever
better learning
consider? Do
experience.
they ever offer how to get more money? How to
No,
generate it?
no, no. They just
They
ask
just-
for more money. They're
yeah,
like,
so they
right
just think
now,
it's there. All of
yeah,
these people just
absolutely.
think the money's
Yes,
there. They
yes.
never consider how it got there.
Absolutely not. So it's the and I'm very familiar with this. So like
Mhm.
they're and again, they're not, I don't, it doesn't make me mad, like they're like, this is our how much money we're getting, but if we got this much, like we would be able to do this, like, which is great. Like that
Mhm.
is great. There's no more money. Like like it's not coming in. And so, and it's sure as heck not coming in from your program that's like losing money, right?
Right.
So like it's, but I was, with the other part that really struck me about the article is the Duke one, right? Where the Manny Diaz with the football team, the men's basketball team, which is great, and then the
Mhm.
women's basketball team is also really good. And
Yeah.
the AD was like, all three coaches asked me for a lot more than we can provide them,
Of
and
course.
I completely related to that sentence because that happens all the time at my university, where like every single department is asking for more money, and there isn't any, right? And
Mhm.
so and in fact this year there's going to be some cuts, and then you have to decide like who's going
Who's
to be
going?
cut and who, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's it was just I just, I mean, I've only ever been at a university. I've been in school and worked at one like forever. I knew this is how it was on the academic side. I honestly didn't think it was like that in the athlete side. It's crazy to think it's the same. It's crazy to think that our like Department of health kinesiology. Like it's this, we asked for more money too, and then we're not getting it. Like we're just
Just
like
like this.
the Duke
Yeah.
women's team. And so, so I was really blown away that it's the same with athletes, because I would have thought, like you, I think, that it should go to the football team because that's what, and in Duke, you could make more of a case for the men's basketball, because that's a pretty big thing in terms of like
Sure.
donors
It's
and
just
stuff,
proportionate to what you bring in.
exactly.
And then
Yeah.
if your team is a pure charity case,
Yeah.
then you just take what you get and you don't
Yeah.
get to ask anything
No,
because it's
it's just,
pure charity.
yeah. So I was just blown away. There was like, it was literally like this week that like our dean was like asked by three people, like, we need more money for this. And then like, there isn't any. And then it was like, I see this article, like it
Yeah.
Duke football, basketball, men's
Yeah.
and women's basketball asked for more money and there isn't any.
Mhm.
And I'm like, God damn, it's the same thing. It's the same thing,
Yep.
which makes
And,
sense because it's a university, but I just don't know why it didn't hit me like that.
if there, I don't know if I was reading some of these other articles correctly, but if there is any push, any of this Title IX garbage push for NIL money to also be redistributed,
Hmm.
get the hell out of here.
Hmm.
So if a football player generates some kind of NIL money and then somehow the other teams are like, well, we get a cut of that too.
Yeah.
Like,
That's,
get out of here. That
well,
is
and
bullshit.
but there was another article, that was one that I sent you actually, where right now there's a lot of great examples of women making way more NIL money
Yes.
than the men,
Yes.
right? Which is, and rightfully so. Like
Mhm.
it's that, like if you can get it, then you should get it. Like
Yeah.
it should go to where it's earned, or where, you know what I mean? Like
I mean,
it's not
social
the,
influencers, many of them are just college age whatevers.
yeah,
And if you happen to be on a team, perfect.
yeah,
So throw yourself up on Instagram. Like a lot of girls just follow other girls or
yep,
women, whatever, and they just, oh, that's my influencer for makeup. That's my influencer for clothes or
right.
whatever. Fine. And if she also happens to be a volleyball player at Nebraska, good. Okay,
Yeah, for
fine. Then
sure. No,
she deserves as much money as she can generate, whether or not she ever played basketball
right. I was really happy to
or
see
volleyball
that.
or whatever.
Yeah, I was really happy to see that, because it was, for, again, the non-revenue generating sports, which a lot of them were women's sports. A lot of them are
Yeah.
the men's sports, like the baseball, like another, things like that. But I thought it was great to hear that, like, what was it? The one girl, like it was the LSU gymnast who hasn't like played yet, but like has
Mhm.
more NIL money than Travis Hunter and
Well,
Cooper
let's be
Flag
honest. Those
together.
girls just throw themselves up in their gymnast outfit and they get millions of
Sure,
followers.
but I mean, like it was, but I'm like, but
But
that
good for
used to
them.
be, yes, like that
Mhm.
used to be a team that like would probably get like no support for
Yeah.
something, right? So good for you for making it happen. Like you should, and the Cavender twins in Miami,
Mhm.
they're really crushing it too. Good for them. Like one of
I
them
think
doesn't even start, but like that's awesome. Like you
right.
should,
And that's true NIL. If you can make
yes,
money based on your likeness, good for you. And no
yeah.
one else deserves a penny of that.
No, exactly.
It's
Men
just
or women. Like
men
women
or women.
keep your
Yeah.
own thing. Men keep
Yeah.
your own thing. Like it's, yeah. But
Right.
that's why the revenue sharing thing is frustrating when
Yeah.
when it's clearly coming from football.
And it's just so tone deaf when the teams that lose money have their hand out
It's
asking for money from
crazy.
the other team that
It's
generates all the money.
it's just
And
unbelievable.
don't even consider the pressure on that team to keep generating the money. What if they fall off and just have bad times? Then they're
Yeah,
just sitting around going, "Oh, I guess we can't leech off of you guys."
yeah,
And for the players, any player, get used to people having their hand out. If you make
yes.
money, man or woman, as soon as you start making real money, you'll be shocked at how many people think they deserve some of your money, or
That's a really good
will have
point.
their hand out.
That is
Friends,
gonna
family, like you know how many times Geoff asked me for money? I tell him to screw off.
it's not true. People listening, not true. But it's
Uh,
the no, but like it's the you're absolutely right. That's actually a really good piece of advice, because
mhm.
it would suck to be an 18-year-old coming from not much money, getting some significant NIL money, and you're gonna see people come out of the woodwork
Oh
and
yeah.
friends and relatives that you didn't know you had.
Hmm.
And that's a great advice, because that you're most people are not going to be prepared for that. And
Nope.
it's hard, because you probably want to help them, and you do have more money than them, and you could, but like the
I worry that at that age, like it took me a long time to generate some real money in my company. I mean, I was into my 40s before we actually started making for real
yeah,
money, but I couldn't imagine. And that's years and years of just sleeping on couches and like just getting by. But I couldn't imagine being 18 years old and all of a sudden a big dump of money comes in. I could
oh
see that person spending money on their friends, thinking that
Yeah.
money's never going to run out,
Yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
just being utterly taken advantage of at that point, and not even notice. Just think, oh, I'm just with my friends and stuff.
Yeah.
And you could have, even by the end of college, some of these kids could have generational life changing money. But if you're not careful with it, it could disappear like in a year,
Seconds.
seconds, in a
Seconds.
day. It could
Yes.
disappear so quickly,
Yeah.
and you won't even notice what happened.
I
And
was
those
always
people, well, they'll just move on to the next person they can get money from.
Yep, I was always blown away by some of the draft picks, like when they had was this in Madison Square Gardens for the NFL draft, and then there were some of the people who are going to get picked in the first
Mhm.
round, so they're going to make some money, but they would go out to like the jewelry store and have stuff made, and then like with the idea that like I'll pay you tomorrow, like after I get drafted, like and it
It's just
and it's
nuts.
yeah, and it's like, do you really need to spend that much money on that now, like before you even
But
have
and
it, like it
they're just so young and so
yeah.
naive to it.
We're
And
probably
again,
sounding old right now, but it's
I don't know if I'd have that control at that age.
I wouldn't even know. I know I didn't. I
No.
mean, again, for me, it was way different scale. Like when I was, I would have been 20 years old, and I helped Ando pave his dad's driveway for his motorcycle, and yeah, and that's when I had like no money, and he gave me $75, and it was gone within the hour. Like within the hour, I
Mhm.
left there. He handed me the cash. I bought a T-bone steak and like a case of beer or something. Like, and then that was it. And then it was I
Yeah.
it was half
Easy come,
gone.
easy go.
That's gone that day,
And
and I
so for
was
these kids, move the decimal place over 1 or 2
I
spots,
know.
but they can still blow it all.
He could absolutely blow it all. There was a great there was the I think it was on Netflix. It was about the quarterbacks and then like or NFL players that lost everything with all
Yeah,
the
it's
money and
broke. It's a
stuff. And
30 for 30. Yeah.
yeah, that was really interesting. But I remember the one guy, like looking back at it now, he was like he had for 1 month and his Visa bill was like $100,000, and he's like, oh, what was I doing? Like it was
Mhm.
because it was all ridiculous stuff.
I almost think now everyone's money is their own, but I almost think these, especially for the college age kids that are getting all of this money, I almost think it should be in trust, or
Yeah,
in a way where you don't just hand it to an 18-year-old who a year later it's
yeah.
gone. It's
It has to come with mandatory financial training or something. Like
something.
as soon as your NIL is over like 50K or something, then
I mean,
it's
right
like
out of the gates,
mandatory.
do they know that 50% of it's getting taxed away?
Right, probably not. So like is it so that yeah, so it'd have to be, and that's the other thing that's so frustrating about. We'll bring it back to we got off topic here, but we'll bring it back to the revenue sharing thing for those coaches that have their hand out. They actually know now how money works, how
Yeah.
much gets taxed, why it's important to keep it, why is it put, you know what I mean? Like what some extra money would do for things versus salary versus what you'd pay into a program, you know what I mean? And that makes it even crazier that when they're losing money and
Mhm.
asking for more and knowing how it works is,
Well,
I don't
once you
know.
settle into a system, and it does, there's no such thing as fairness. This equity
Yeah.
fairness thing is
No.
bullshit. In the
Yeah.
same vein of asking for equity and fairness, somebody is asking for money out of the sense of fairness whose program loses money, but
Yeah.
thinks they deserve the money while they lose money. And I know we're focusing so much on money. Is everyone's life revolves around money. All the things that you
Yes.
do in life are limited by however much money you have. Like
Yes.
wherever device you're listening to this on, or whatever room you're sitting, or wherever you are, you're only there because you can afford that and not something else.
Yep. No,
And it,
and this is a big deal because, and the reason why we're talking about it, because it's going to have a significant impact on college football. And
yeah,
this is a fan football podcast,
yeah,
and I don't want anything to happen negatively to my
no,
football. I'd like that we get to watch every weekend in the fall. Can't wait for it to happen. I hope Manny Diaz has a super competitive team at Duke this year and gets all the
hmm
support that he needs. But the revenue sharing, like it is going to change the landscape of
hmm
college
and
football
Duke
and
basketball probably generates a ton of money.
I
And
mean, I'd like to think so, but you're making me, this article is making me second guess it now
well,
where
put it this way,
be-
proportionately to other basketball teams, I'm sure it makes
I
more.
feel like it has to, but like,
I
I
don't
don't,
know.
I mean, I don't know, like there, it is
But the
when,
TV deals are the TV deals. Football
yeah,
is just at a scale so much
way
bigger
bigger.
than
I
the
know.
others. And I actually kind of think Manny Diaz is a good marriage there. That seems like
Oh, I
that's going to
think
last.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a good position. And there's something to be said about in the ACC, and also what competition you're going to be at and stuff like that. But I think I
just
think
a
that'd
good
be great.
fit. We
Yeah.
need to do an episode on the best marriages of coaches and programs.
Ooh,
He's
that is
one
a
of them
good
for
one.
sure.
Perfect.
And Beamer.
When you say
Beamer
marriage, do you mean like the Bill Belichick and his 24-year-old, or do you mean just like with the team?
No. That's his side piece. With his shaky marriage with UNC. Anyway, so where are we getting at this? Money is so hard to come by, and all of these people,
All aspects of life, not
in
just
all aspects of life, it is so hard to come by. And if you happen to be in the position where it's coming your way, just realize people are going to have their hand out.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say no to every one of them, because that's your money.
That's a really good point to end on. And a perfect example of that would be someone like Don Staley making $4 million, and I believe deserves every penny of it, to be honest. Like, there's a fantastic coach, but the team loses money. And so to think that like it's unfair in some way that you're not getting more for your team is pretty crazy. But it's because, just like you said, they're the hands out.
Yeah.
Right. So
well, again, to be fair to her, the article doesn't rip on her. It's
no,
in any way, and
I'm trying not to.
Agrees that the football team deserves the lion's share, because that's where it's coming from.
Yes,
they
and
all
super
just
generous with meeting the recruits and stuff. So she absolutely gets
she's
that.
actually a bit of a selling feature to the recruits, like, because this is a degree of excellence that's around here. But you just have to understand, you're a charity case. Your existence is, you do not generate the money that pays your salary. Somebody else does.
Yeah.
And that doesn't exist in private. If my business did that, we'd be out of business.
Right. Exactly.
So in these public institutions, most of those coaches that aren't on the football team or football coaches, they're all charity cases living off the back of the football team. So football players, if you're making money, don't give it to anybody. Keep it. Everyone's going to have their hand out. All right.
That's good.
Good place to leave it?
Yep.
All right. We'll catch you guys later.